is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
Excuse me as I rock on. That's Went Away by Dorothy Lane. Dorothy Lane out of Martinez, California. That's out of the Cut and Dry album. Check them out at dorothylanemusic.com. Yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ruel's Running Podcast. I'm your host, Ruel Abadam. What is going on? What is going off? How's everybody doing? I hope everybody's doing good. I'm doing okay. It feels like it's been forever since I put out an episode, and I think when you approach a 2-week period of not putting out an episode, then you're essentially doing every other week, and if that's not what you've declared to do or prepared to operate as a podcast, then it does feel like a long time. And but so is podcasting. It can be tricky, especially if you're a one-man show or a half-man show, which sometimes I feel like I am. The other half is just bleh, nothing. So I'm actually sitting down and I have audio from previously recorded for the next episode, which is not this episode. As by the time you would hear this episode, you would have heard the episode that I'm talking about. So I have audio content for the next unreleased episode, and I'm actually working on that. So as I work on an episode, I'm recording this with you, creating a new episode. How cool is that? But a lot's been going on, so let's just get into it. First, I'd like to say that if you heard last episode, birthdays in the family have passed, and it's a good thing. And I can't remember at this point if I had made mention, if I had mentioned. Why did I say it that way? Why did I say if I made mention? Is that even proper? I guess it doesn't matter since I don't speak proper anyways. But I might have mentioned a family trip to a lake house for a long weekend, and it would have been our first trip as a family to such a thing. It would have been an Airbnb sort of situation, except that my wife knows the owner of the property, and so able to secure the lake house for the long weekend without having to go through the system, I guess. That's my take on it. And having decided on doing that, I won't lie, on uncharted territory for the family, uncharted territory for me. Driving over to a lake, don't know where it's at, how long it's going to take. Well, you can always calculate how long it's going to take, but don't know what to expect. In my sort of small island brain, I'm thinking, big lake, log cabin on the lake, wilderness, and, I don't, and no cell reception, and not knowing the area, whether or not there is wildlife or concerns of bears and all that stuff, right? Idiot. Despite there being pictures online for the lake and for the property, and that there clearly is a whole neighborhood housing association built around this private lake. So But that's just where my island brain tends to go. And so the family did that and managed to coordinate with other relatives, 2 other families, for them to join in. When we had the past birthday party, the birthday party last month for my son, we had, the relatives over and other guests, and my wife had coordinated with 2 other relatives, families, to join in, and all they had to do is, bring things like food and games and all that stuff, and they didn't have to worry about, chipping in for the place. So, that added an interesting dynamic, a pleasant dynamic to the trip, and it made it more fun. So, that long weekend had passed, and we did the trip, and it was a blast. The family, we swam in the lake. We spent a lot of quality time with the relatives and the other kids. So basically, my kids hung out with cousins, and for 2 nights, we stayed and enjoyed the time in a new place. And I'd love for it to be a tradition. Having the kids grow up and be around their other cousins is great. It's something that my wife and I are familiar with doing growing up on a small island, being around a lot of the relatives and cousins. So, living here in California, it's not as frequent, and it's not as the opportunities aren't so much there unless we make the effort to schedule those things out, plan those things out, and all the good stuff. So we did that. It was awesome. A lot of cooking had been done at the trip. The lake house is a wonderful property. There's a full kitchen, and it's even stocked with stuff that we could use in the pantry. Things like spices and stuff. And but that we had our relatives brought a lot of meat for grilling, a lot of eggs, and we did. God, what did we do? I remember we grilled beef, we grilled chicken, we grilled some hot dogs, we grilled hamburger beef patties. We did a lot. For breakfast time, the relatives, they would cook up, pancakes for the kids and a big batch of scrambled eggs and, a lot of bacon, a lot of sausage. And for our first trip to the lake house, we brought an Instant Pot. we brought the big model. We brought the 8-quart. And what we did was we roasted a chicken in the Instant Pot, and we demonstrated how to do that so that, the other adults there who wanted to know how to do it and see the thing in action could learn and, eventually get one for themselves. So I roasted a whole chicken in the Instant Pot. And it's technically what you're doing is you're browning the chicken in the Instant Pot and then pressure cooking it with a little bit of liquid. And, it isn't a crispy skinned roast chicken, but it's a way to get a whole bird cooked and done really quick. And all I did was seasoned it with salt, pepper, and paprika, and then sliced up some lemons and put them in the cavity of the bird, and some thin slices laid it on top of the bird before I put it into the pressure cooker mode. And that chicken was used for another dish, and I've talked about it and I've made a video on it on YouTube. It was for the chicken kelaguen, which is basically some chopped roasted chicken or grilled chicken. Not so much the skin, definitely not the bones, but the meat. Chopped, and then add chopped green onions, some chopped diced yellow onions or white onions, a lot of lemon juice, a lot of salt, and some chopped Thai chili peppers, and some coconut. Not the, growing up, you're so used to putting some fresh grated coconut on there, but the fresh grated coconut wasn't available on the trip. So the best we did was we used some grated, roasted, or dried coconut flakes, or grated coconut, unsweetened. It's not the same. It doesn't have the same effect. It almost had no effect. When you use fresh coconut, it gives it this creaminess to it. I know it sounds weird, but basically that's what the dish is. It's kind of like a chicken salad. After you prepare it, you have it kind of sit in it, with all the lemon and all of the seasoning and stuff. Have it sit in the refrigerator for a little bit. So it comes out cold. You serve it. You can serve it cold. As it sits out, it's fine, but always like to start it out served cold. And the reason for that is originally having to cook it with coconut, fresh coconut. Keeping it cold ensures that it stays fresh and it doesn't go bad. Because if some of you don't know, you can take some fresh coconut, like fresh coconut, grate it up and have it sit out and in a tropical temperature, and at some point it'll go bad, right? And then and have that in a dish, it'll be bad in the dish, and it'll basically make the dish bad. So that was some of the cooking that we did, and a lot of food was made from the get-go. So there was a lot of leftovers that carried over for multiple meals. And man, it's just fun, just a whole lot of fun spending time with relatives and getting to reacquaint ourselves with one another, getting updates, and getting exposed to the kids, and having that bonding and that social aspect, pretty cool. So that's cooking had happened there, and not a whole lot of different cooking happening at home, from the return, just get back to doing bone broth, get back to doing mushroom soup. I did the mushroom soup differently recently. I ordinarily do it with the onions and the mushrooms, the portobello mushrooms, and coconut cream or coconut milk, but didn't have a whole lot of coconut milk, and I wanted to reserve whatever coconut milk I had left for smoothies the following morning. So instead, I substituted the coconut milk with heavy cream. And nothing wrong with that, and it's just as good. What else? What other cooking have I done that may be interesting? Nothing interesting, I want to get back to doing some ribeye steaks, grab, if I can, afford to get a couple of nice cuts for $20, those couple of steaks could go several days, and I just love cooking it. Other than cooking, how I've been eating lately is when I cook bacon, for breakfast in the morning or even for dinner at night, either for anybody who wants bacon, primarily for myself, I'll put some bacon on the pan, but I won't have it spend a whole lot of time on the pan, to be honest. I won't crisp it up and I won't brown it so much. I'll just heat it up and it'll basically still be raw, right? And I'll enjoy it that way. And while that's happening, I'll just take a slice out of the bacon package and I'll just eat it straight raw. And it's so delicious. And I never imagined wanting to do that before until I heard some, I don't know what you call them, some scientist or something on the Inner Fire podcast talk about things like deuterium, like how there's water that can contain this deuterium that, is basically not as optimal for your body to utilize versus, like a purified or distilled version of water that doesn't have this thing. But I can't remember the guy, but in this episode he talked about how he would enjoy a slice of the raw bacon and how he finds he benefits from it. And there's no way for me to measure whether or not the bacon is doing me good or harm. Actually, the only good that I can gauge from it is that I can tolerate it. I can beyond tolerate it. I can enjoy it. I can enjoy a slice of uncooked bacon, and I could feel good eating it and after eating it. So, that's all I can do to measure. I'm not concerned about, any sort of food borne in, sort of parasites or disease or sickness. I'm just not. In this modern world, and, quality controls and stuff, and the bacon being smoked, if you will, or somehow, it's just good. And what I'm able to do by having the bacon that way is I'm consuming everything. I'm not losing, the nutritious fat that gets rendered off during the cooking process. I mean, yeah, a lot of times when I do cook bacon, I save the drippings and I'll use it for other cooking, but, this keeps all the fat in its original form, and I get to consume it in its original form, and it's awesome. So if anybody's brave enough and interested, give it a try. It's amazing. And when you get a slice of bacon that's mostly fat, it just melts in your mouth when you're eating it, and it's so yummy. It tastes like cold sliced ham, but better. That's the only way I can think of it. I mean, if I were to eat a ham and cheese sandwich today, which I'm not, I would replace that ham with just some uncooked sliced of bacon. Just so good. BeMighty.com. Play your Spotify music on the go without a phone or internet connection. Mighty. Folks, I picked up a Mighty a while ago from the good folks at Mighty to test out, try out. It really, really, really reminded me of some other device that I used on the go, and you should check it out. It plays Spotify playlists and podcasts, and it works with Bluetooth and wired headphones. It stores more than 1,000 tracks offline with up to 5 hours of listening time. And there's wireless syncing involved through a mobile app, and it's drop-proof and water-resistant. Check them out. It's a little tiny device, and you can listen to your Spotify music and your Spotify podcasts, and you don't have to carry your phone once you've got it all synced. You can just have this little thing. It's about an inch and a half or so by inch and a half square. And check them out at ruwellsrunning.com/partners. Click on the Mighty link and see what they got. They come in 3 colors. They come in black, white, and orange. Check them out. ruwellsrunning.com/partners for Mighty Audio. Be mighty. Lately, I guess we'll jump into nutrition. Folks who've been listening to the podcast for a while know that the podcast started and partly based on living an NSNG lifestyle. NSNG, for the new listeners, stands for no sugar, no grains. And you may not know about it, but if you know about it, believe it or not, it's not so well known, but it definitely is more well known than it used to be. This podcast started, I started on the lifestyle about 5 years ago. This podcast maybe started 3 years ago or something. I don't really know. But the whole part of the motivation to podcast about being on an NSNG lifestyle was to sort of share and promote it. I don't get to promote it all the time. It's kind of weird, right? When I started on an NSNG lifestyle, it it was something that I wanted to do to optimize how I kept my weight, and also optimized how I fueled for my running. And, there was a big disconnect before NSNG for me. How do I, eat no sugars and no grains, but and at the same time, how do I train to do, I don't know, a marathon or a half marathon? And a lot of other questions came up, things like, how do I run zone 2 or at a MAF approach to MAF approach, what is MAF? Maximum aerobic function. That one was labeled by Phil Maffetone. How do you do that? And how does your nutrition play into that? All that stuff. So I found that if I listen to Vinny Tortorich on his podcast and learn more about and learn and live an NSNG lifestyle, I could enjoy health, controlling my weight, and properly fueling, not just for life, but also for my activities like running. So, early on, it felt like something that I like to say, climb the highest mountain, shout and tell everybody. And, then what I'm learning is, as the years go by and the longer and longer that I've adopted the NSNG lifestyle, it's so normal. It's not as shiny as it once was. And the good thing about that is, when I get into that, being in at that level, I can just go my day to day and know what type of food better serves me and what food to stay away from. It's natural. It's not second nature. It's natural. And versus somebody who's struggling, I have relatives who want to know what it's like and how to implement an NSNG way of eating, and it's not natural yet. But if they stick to it, it'll become natural. They'll know where the hidden sugars are, what to be suspicious about, and what to enjoy fully. But so from a podcast perspective, I can't, as the lifestyle had become natural for me, it wasn't so shiny for me to talk about, if that makes sense. To go in week after week or every other week or every month to talk about it, because I get to a point where my controlling my weight levels off, so there aren't any updates to make. There aren't any new and exciting things to eat. I mean, if you recall, how many times have I talked about having done bone broth? Because it's so regular, it's so natural to do bone broth, but it really isn't that interesting. But I still talk about having to do bone broth, just in case there's a new listener that hops on and wants to know, what have I eaten? How many times have I talked about the mushroom soup? Oh my God, I know I've talked about it more than once, twice, 3 times. It's just when I have a what's cooking segment, I gotta talk about something, and I'm not gonna spew out some BS. And if anything, I hope to demonstrate that, well, if Ruel's constantly cooking bone broth, chicken or beef or a mixture of, or he's making a soup or he's making a shake, he must really, really like it. It must be good enough for him to really, really like. Maybe I should look into it. And if anybody's interested, if I talk about food and I fail to drop a recipe, or if I fail to give details on how to cook it, you can always, just contact me, via the website, on Facebook, on, Instagram, Twitter, and I'll share. Most folks contact me on Facebook. Yeah. But every now and then I got to get back on this podcast and talk about NSNG. And it's funny, it's so natural that I kind of have to withdraw from talking about it. It used to be such a thing that I would talk people's ear off, right? And then I would do it to a point where I get so excited, right? And I know that I can talk for hours about it. But then once I stop, I realize, like, I think I said too much, that I've kind of turned people off. And I don't like that. I mean, I waste my time, I waste their time. I don't really think that it goes, I can't force somebody to get into it. So I just withdraw. And, an example happened during the trip at the lake house. I was so excited. I knew that because folks around me were basically relatives, I could afford to cut to the chase, right? And just be straight with them. Like, don't eat that crap. This is why it's crap. You think, like, for example, they're trying to adopt a way of eating that gets them into maybe a ketogenic state, and they don't really understand it, right? And they're thinking I'm going to go eat towards getting in ketosis, so therefore I can allow to eat more butter than I'm comfortable. And what do they bring to the table? They bring like a country crock, right? I was like, tastes like butter with a touch of butter, or I don't know what it is. When I saw it, I kept my mouth shut, until the moment came where I had to cut to the chase. Everything that I've learned in the past 5 years, paying attention to things that Vinny says on a podcast, and the people that he interviews, the experts, and things that I've read, and I like to tell folks that I meet that I've paid so much attention in the past several years that if these were courses that I would test out of, I would get some sort of certificate, certification, and maybe a degree to in some way, right? I've said in the past, I feel like I've paid so much attention, maybe too much attention, that I know more than some doctors, some nutritionists, right? Some dietitians, right? But I don't walk around with a label with a title or a label or anything. All I have is this silly little podcast, right? At any rate, so gets to a part of the conversation with relatives during the trip about and cutting to the chase. Someone clearly wants to lose 20 pounds, and I've had conversations, or I've heard things that they've said on and off over months, and even to the point where they said they've tried NSNG and they've tried keto and they failed. But then the failure isn't NSNG for the listeners. The failure isn't keto for the listeners. The failure is in the person's execution, and it sounds so cut and dry, or how they implement being NSNG, how they approach becoming ketogenic, right? And it all comes down to putting the wrong stuff in your mouth and not putting enough of the right stuff in your mouth. That's where the failure is. And it comes down to the natural things like asking a relative or telling a relative to cut grains. Yes, I do allow a certain amount of rice in my diet, but not as much, right? And I've always said, when I do, I know what I'm doing to myself, and that how it doesn't serve me. So I'm not saying that NSNG fails me whenever I fall off the wagon and my weight goes the wrong direction, because I know exactly what I'm doing to myself. But when I'm teaching someone about how to have success in NSNG, A lot of people will question things like, but you know what, I'm Asian, I gotta have some rice. Like, yes, and when you do, then just realize that it's gonna be a challenge dropping the weight, that 20 pounds that you're interested in. If you really want to lose that 20 pounds, then you gotta just cut it out entirely. For myself, I've lost the weight, and I've lost it, and I've kept it off for years. And there's a portion of it has crept back, and I attribute some of that regain as a result of me being relaxed from and not being pristine, being NSNG. In general, I am, but it's those moments where I'm not pristine that has caused some of that weight to come back, and it's a lot of life into living, more life into living than I want. And for the new listener, life into living is Vinny's way of saying, you know what, you can have a life and enjoying good health, living an NSNG lifestyle, but you still at the same time enjoy a birthday cake, right? I just happen to have a life where I have I have 2 birthdays that occur in August, 2 that happen in October. October rolls around, then Thanksgiving comes in, and then the next month, the other holidays kick in, Then the following spring, there's a birthday that comes up, not to mention before that, there's probably a Mother's Day, and then after the spring sometime, there's a Father's Day. So somehow American society has developed shit tons of holidays where if you're an NSNGer, there's going to be a shit ton of life into living, and you got to pick and choose what you want for life into living, because next thing you're going to do is you're going to find yourself indulging every month, and that's going to cut into your gains in living an NSNG lifestyle. At any rate, back to my relative. She's like, you know what, but I gotta enjoy some of these Filipino dishes. How do you enjoy these particular Filipino dishes without rice? And it's like, and you're right, it's not gonna be the same. But if you want to cut that 20 pounds, you're gonna make it happen. People who want to lose a significant amount of weight, and 20 pounds can be a significant amount of weight for some folks, right? And some folks it's 100, some folks it's 200, right? Anyway, you just gotta do it. Like, how do you enjoy a sandwich without bread? Just do the sandwich without the bread. How do you enjoy pizza without the crust? Just eat the toppings off of the crust. I've done it. I've sat in many team meetings at work where the norm was to bring pizza would be brought in, and I would grab more slices than most people, and I would pick out the pepperoni, pick out the sausage, eat the cheese, and try to skim off and wipe off the sauce. Yes, the sauce isn't good because the sauce is sugary. The sauce is basically sugar. So the cheese and the meat, and I would throw away everything else in the garbage. What does that do? It keeps you on track from NSNG, making do with whatever food you have. You're keeping that grainy crap and sugar out of your system so that you can learn your body can learn to operate off of the meat and the fat that you consume. You give your hormones a break from having to deal with all of that bull crap that's in the grain, and you give your body a break and allow it to come down from the inflammation that is caused by eating the grain and the sugar. Right now I'm sitting, I've been more strict with NSNG since coming back from the lake house, and I'm really enjoying it. And because my mind is clearer, I'm not falling into the mental trap that follows having done a life into living. Say if I had a birthday cake, right? It's what happens is the following day or two, I'm starting to think about, maybe I can have some ice cream. Maybe I can have another pizza, right? It's how I believe the wrong foods can trick you, can control your mind in a way where you think it's just craving, right? That it's just you, it's your personality, but it's the food that's impacting your gut, and your gut is impacting your thoughts, right? All the little gut bugs are saying, hey, remember that time you had birthday cake? Well, shoot, now we're craving for pizza. Send a message to the brain. Brain says, well, you want pizza. So then, it's like, okay, my brain is telling me I want pizza. I guess I crave pizza. I better deliver on that request. I'm going to go get me some pizza. Have the pizza. Goes in my system, and the gut bugs are super happy. And now the gut bugs that thrive on grain and sugar are like, yes, let's just multiply and let's defeat all of the other bugs that want to have the NSNG stuff. We've taken over. Send another signal to the brain. Let's have a burger and not give a crap that I'm going to eat a wheat bun. And never mind that I'm putting the crappy mayo in it. And never mind that, that you're going to have French fries, And then you're on, then meal after meal that is not NSNG, you get so used to, you create that pattern. Now you just don't give a shit. And now you've lost, your role, the momentum, and you have to recommit to like, nope, no sugars. Nope, no grains. And then the more you behave the other direction, where you're avoiding the crap and you're eating the good stuff, then the way I like to envision it is your gut biome, all of the bugs, the balance shifts. The good bug, or the NSNG bugs, we'll call them the NSNG bugs, are starting to defeat like the sugar and grain bugs. And more of the good bugs, I'll call them, the NSNG bugs, are living in your gut flora, and they're the ones that are more sated. And when they are hungry, they're like, hey, let's have a steak, let's have some bacon, let's have some cruciferous vegetables with some delicious real butter and maybe some real cheese, and some real cream in your coffee, and, you turn the tide and you want to get there. So you want to lose 20 pounds? You know what? You can't be too concerned about having a sandwich and what kind of bread you're going to have, and if you can replicate bread. Fuck replicating bread. Fuck replicating pasta, right? Fuck replicating rice. Because if you're going to have rice, and just be a man about it. Fuck cauliflower rice. Just eat cauliflower. Does it have to look like rice? Just get the damn cauliflower, cut it up, steam it or don't steam it, cook it or don't cook it, and eat the fucking broccoli, right? Don't have to... Zoodles... Fuck zoodles. If you're gonna eat zucchini, eat the fucking zucchini. Why do you have to make it look like noodles? Why do you have to stick your fork in some noodly looking thing, twirl it in your fork, and feel like you're fucking having pasta? Just have the zucchini. Okay, I'm sorry. I get it. Because you want to enjoy your food. And it's not so enjoyable to have the food in its natural form. You have to prepare it in a recipe and enjoy the process of reading a recipe, learning a recipe, utilizing your utensils, and then doing the steps of preparation, and then assembling the food on the plate and presenting it, then taking your Instagram photos and your Facebook photos and posting it and sharing it and looking for the likes. I get it. That's all enjoyable, and if that's your thing, you can do that thing. And I'm guilty of that. I've done stupid YouTube videos about, this is how you can roast a chicken in a slow cooker or an Instant Pot. This is how you can do this in an Instant Pot. This is how you can, whatever. I get it. I guess what happens is you get to a point where you don't need any more of that stuff. You just get down to basics, and the basics is just, veg and steak. Done. You don't have to put flowers on it. You don't have to sprinkle, decorations around it. You just grab the meat from the butcher, little seasoning, a little heat, a little more heat, a little char, no char, thinly sliced, whatever. And you do your NSNGU, and you're healthy, and you have clearer thoughts, and you will become hyper aware of how much BS there is out there, right? And here's another thought. When you start off NSNG and you're rolling in your first year or two, and you're really, really like an asshole about living NSNG, just as in the same way vegans are assholes as vegans, right? You can be an asshole NSNG, you can be an asshole paleo guy. It's because you have found something that you feel positively changes your life. We'll go back to NSNG. You find NSNG, you're rolling into it, you're getting success after 6 months, a year, and you're an asshole about it because now you're telling everybody that they have to be on it and that everybody should be, and you're pissed off at the fact there's all this processed food in the stores. You're pissed off at all of the mislabeling that are on the packages of the food. You're pissed off that you see restaurant menus that talk about having healthy items, but all the stuff that's in their menus are garbage. I get it. You become sort of like militant about it, right? And then after a while, you don't. But I'm not saying you shouldn't be an asshole about it, because you should actually be not just an asshole about it from the start. You should actually be pissed off about it, because of all of the brainwashing that you may or may not have realized has happened as to what we were told is healthy and the way we should eat, which has really caused us to become sick and believe that we need to eat foods a certain way. We've lost the fact that food, yes, you can have food, and it doesn't have to be in the form of a sandwich. It doesn't have to be in the form of a pasta dish. It doesn't have to be in the form of a pizza. Food doesn't have to be assembled in a way that resembles fast food, right? You can make it at home, and it could still be fast food if what you're making is basically fast food. You can chop up some French fries, some potatoes, and fry them up just like they do at the restaurant. You won't be as efficient and have the fancy branding or packaging, but you're still making fast food. You're just making it at home, right? You can toast a wheat bun, cook up a beef patty, throw in some ketchup and mustard and pickles and whatever else you put on a burger, make it at home. It's still fast food, right? Because there are things in that food that are crappy. Now, I can make fast food and healthy. How would you do that? Let's use the burger as an example. I have a cast iron pan. I cook up my beef patty, right? Medium. That's how I prefer it. Salt and pepper. A lot of salt, right? On the side, as that patty is pretty much done, I'll throw in a single slice of bacon. As I mentioned before, I don't have to crisp up the bacon. I can just heat it up and enjoy it. I'll heat it up. It's still kind of like fatty. I'll put that on top of the patty. What did I say? I thought I said something that kind of repeated myself. Anyways, I'll take an egg I'll throw the egg on the pan, and I'll do a sunny side up. Still sort of runny. I'll put that on the patty on top of the bacon. Right? And how about some cheese? I'll just throw on a slice of cheese, some good cheese. Not the cheese-like product that's garbage, that's made to look like cheese slices, but technically it's some bullcrap oil substance with some component of milk, but it isn't cheese. It's cheese-like. Oh my freaking God. You've seen those videos online? Like this cheese-like slice. You put it over a flame and the thing doesn't even melt. Look out for that stuff. That's not cheese. But anyways, back to my meat, my bacon, my egg, my cheese. Eat that. There you go. It's like fast food, but healthy, right? And the reverse is you can head over to your favorite burger place if you're at a, you know, if you have no other option, you're in a place where you can't make it at home. Go to your favorite burger place and just order the burger. You don't even have to be a douchebag and say, "Can I please have that on a lettuce wrap?" Right? You could just say, "I'll have," like, let's use In-N-Out as an example. I'll go to In-N-Out. You know what? Hey, I'm kind of hungry. I'll have the double. That's 2 patties of meat, right, and 2 cheeses wrapped up in a burger. No. Give me the triple. That's 3 meats, 3 cheeses. How about that? Lettuce and tomatoes, fine. Onions are fine. I generally like them raw because the way they cook them and the way they grill them, I think they use junk oil when they grill them. So it's like, I don't need that junk. Right? And plus, whatever. That's a whole different thing. Definitely no spread, because their spread, as delicious as I know it can be, it's not good for you. And I'm not worried about the bun. I'll get my triple at the end of the order thingy, and I'll open up my burger, right? And before I take a bite, I peel away parts of the bun that is going to be in the side of the burger that I'm going to eat. So I don't eat any of that. I just peel it away, and I eat. And I basically use the bread as just a wrapper, as a handle, so that I don't have to touch the bare cheese and veg and meat with my hand. Yes, you can say, give it to me without the bun, period, and then you can have it that way. But I figure it saves me the extra time of having to sound like a douchebag and say, please do not include the bun because I, in fact, have implemented NSNG and I am better than thee. No. Just, and sometimes, you know what? You can have friends who want to order lunch for you, and that's how you could approach it. You don't have to say, hey, I'm a douchebag. Make sure you have it without the bun because I'm NSNG, yo. No, just get the fucking food that your friend was nice enough to order for you. Get the burger, because we're still using a burger as an example, and eat it in the same way. Remove the bun and eat it. That might be laced with some sort of spread. Do your best to minimize the, consuming the spread by taking it out, however way. Wipe it with a napkin. Nothing wrong with wiping that crap off of a napkin. Avoid the fries, man. But back to my triple, I'm a pig. And I know that if I just had a single patty and cheese, I may still be hungry. And especially if you're new to NSNG, you want to have more NSNG foods, like more meat, more fat, more protein, right? So that you don't get hungry, because as you eliminate the grains, you're eliminating, a lot of volume that you're used to. So you want to replace that volume with more meat and vegetable, right? So I'll have the triple, or I'll have the triple, or I'll have the double. Depends, right? If I really, if I knew that hunger is going to be an issue, then I'm just going to give myself the opportunity the option to have more to eat. Then if it looks like, whoa, I could have just handled a double without the extra third, or I could have, I'm just going to do the single next time, then it's part of the learning process of what works for you. So I don't remember how I got there, but that's how I got there, and that's where I am, and that's where I'll leave it. And this has basically become an NSNG episode. Look at that. For folks who have managed to get this far in the episode and wonder about running, I'm sorry. But I'll touch a little bit on running here. As of this recording, I am 10 days away from my next 50K trail run. I've signed up for the Berkeley Trail Adventure, and I'm excited about it. I have not been doing, since the last episode, I have not been doing a whole lot of running because I can't remember if I mentioned it or not, but I hurt my back. I hurt my back. It's probably a week now, right? I basically, a week has gone by since I hurt my back, and I'm recovered. And so today I hope to get back on and get some good running done during the midday. And yeah, it is what it is, and I know I've recovered because I'm able to do some hard stuff. And the hard stuff, this is my equivalent of doing tire flips, for you CrossFitters out there who do tire flips. I'm not a big, strong guy, but we have our hands on a friend's jumpy house or jump castle if you're out of the UK. Those inflatable jump castles. And when I deflate the thing, I have to let a lot of the air out. Obviously, that's what deflate is. And I need to fold it in a way and roll it up in a way. It's like one gigantic burrito, right? So that I can store it properly and transport it properly. And that sucker, for me, is heavy, right? The guy that owns it, our friend Nate owns it. And he can pick up that thing and stick it in his SUV and pull it out, and it's because he's big and tall and strong, and I'm everything opposite. And I need a skateboard to wheel the thing around, to wheel the thing around, right? Otherwise, I'm dragging it. But you don't want to drag that stuff around over concrete in case you damage it. But when I roll that thing up, and I gotta roll it and then step on it and deflate more, release more of the air and roll it, and it's like doing tire flips, I imagine, and it's a workout. So I've been able to do that several times over the past several days because I've been like spending time on the weekend setting it up for the kids to enjoy and then tearing it back down and rolling it up. I've been doing that all over and over and over again, and I'm healthy enough to do that. So if I'm healthy enough to do that, I'm healthy enough to go out and do a good midday run. So that's that. So yeah, 10 days away, 50K trail. Is that right? That can't be right. 10 days away yeah, that's right. I'm an idiot. So yeah, that's that. And it's I mentioned it before, it's my return to that event where I want to complete it. Ideally, I want to complete it before the cutoff. And the second goal is I want to beat it. Second goal would be to just complete it, even if it's after the cutoff. And because last time I didn't finish, got off course, was definitely dead last, got off course, and like F it, for me to get back on track, yeah, I'm dejected, I've given up. I'm happy to just get a ride back to the finish start and then just take it as a learning experience. So yeah, that's that. That's the running. So I got to run, hopefully get a run in today. I am busy at the office, but I'll find the time I need to. If I'm going to get myself straight, I need to get out on that run. And, looking forward to 10 days from now where I get to enjoy another 50K. And, this time around, for the guys who pay attention to the running part of the podcast, is I've contacted the race organization, and they do allow trekking poles. So the trekking poles that I bought and used for the Ohlone 50K back in May, I'm going to take for this event and try to use that to my benefit and have a successful day. So any other updates from me? No. I gotta go. Gotta finish my coffee. I gotta head out. I gotta get work done. Any other updates from you guys? Any other concerns? Anything you want to share? Just find me on Facebook. Let me know. And that's it. Remember, friends, eat something delicious, hug your friends, hug your family, and go run something. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.